All right, all right, all right. Good morning, everybody. It's getting wintry and it's rainy today. It's the weirdest thing. I thought
I
that the rain
was
was gone.
shocked.
I know. I woke up and it was like thunder, and I thought, what the hell's that?
You
I
know,
was not
yesterday,
expecting.
Gareth, my
Hmm?
roommate yesterday was like, "Oh yeah, I just did my laundry. I'm hanging it up." And I looked out the window and I was like, "Was that thunder? I saw a little flash outside."
Oh
She was like,
no!
"It's definitely not. The iPhone
Oh
app,
no!
weather app says that there's not going to be any rain." I was like, "Do you trust that app? That app that
Mm,
always gets it wrong? That app that always says wear flip-flops and then you end up walking in mud with
right.
those damn flip-flops." I was like, "Okay,
Spot
do
on.
you, girl? Do you?" And her washing is
Well,
still hanging outside.
Even
well, I
now.
must tell
Mm-hmm.
you,
Hey.
the weirdest thing, right, is that everybody who puts out their laundry, I mean, I've had this happen to me. The worst thing is when it starts raining in the middle of the night and your laundry's out and you realize the next morning, oh, I've got to wash all that shit again because,
Again.
yeah, because you can't just, dry it out. It's going to smell funny and you've got to just start
Yes.
again. Pain in the ass.
Mhm. Pain
Mm,
in the asshole. But it's fine. What are we gonna
right in
do,
the
Ryan?
arsehole. Um, well, how are you two? What have you two been up to? What did you do over
Ooh.
the long weekend? Because I haven't caught up with either of you in a while. Mash, did
Yeah.
you watch any of your neighbors busy in their cars in the parking lot? Any
No.
bizarre
This time
behavior in your complex? Anything weird,
mhm.
really fucking stunning happen?
Public
Because it's
pools or,
This time around, I was at home. I went to go visit my family in Klerksdorp or Clarksdorp,
nice.
as some people call it. And
Mhm.
it was quite an experience. Clarksdorp is always fun. I witnessed quite a lot of interesting things. Because my dad still works for correctional services. There was a family day on Monday for the
Ooh.
prisoners at correctional services, and yeah, I got to witness that. It was actually quite interesting. Seeing the prisoners having their family day, their families coming to visit. They were showing their kids like, "Oh, I made a painting of you. Oh, I made a sculpture. I
Aw,
made this. I made that."
that's sweet.
That was
That's
super sweet. Super,
shame.
super.
The only bit of publicity that anyone in correctional services has had over the last 10 years is Tabo Besta's escape.
yeah, I
So
was
it's
gonna
all
say.
it looks bad for them,
It's not looking great.
No.
So yeah, so I'm here to just fix that PR. And also Tabo Besta, that's G4A, so that's some private stuff. So they can go deal with that in their own time. But apart from that, my parents have new neighbors. They have
Oh,
new
yeah?
neighbors, and these new neighbors are quite the problem. I'm not gonna lie. They are
Oh.
the loudest group
Ooh.
of people, and by loud, I mean they fight loud, they play loud music. These people
Ugh.
just never get enough. And
Oh,
this past
no.
weekend was exactly that. They would just play music. And keep in mind, my parents live in like I'd call it townhouses. It's basically townhouses where every single house like double-story houses, but like they're all
Oh.
squished together. Basically, they're all together.
In other words, there's no escape. It's not like you can go out into the garden and hide away or any of that shit. You just whatever noise happens next door is coming straight into your ears.
It's coming straight into your ears. Their living room is next to our living room. Yes, there might be 4 layers of bricks or whatever in between us, but it's right there. And they have
Oh.
this theater system that my dad kept track. So my dad is in IT and he keeps saying, I can try and hack it. I can hack the theater system. I can break their Bluetooth chip and yeah, from my laptop. My dad was like trying and trying. And I was like, what are you doing? Just talk to them. Just go next door, knock on the door, and tell them, "Hi, I am your neighbor, and you are really loud." And my parents didn't want to do that. My whole family were like, "No, it's fine. Yeah, it's
No,
fine." And I
you are
was like,
right, Ash. They have to listen to you because that's the only way to deal with irritating neighbors is you've got to face them front on and like tell them that this is not going to happen. You've got to be the bigger, stronger person because people like that are not going to respond to nice requests. They're going to respond to, oh shit, these people actually came to the door. I better fucking listen.
Exactly. And
Oh.
to show, and my
Mhm.
parents never, okay, at some point my dad did finally go at about 11:30 p.m. And I was
Oh.
posting updates on Twitter and on my Instagram stories to say, yo, these people are playing this song at this time. And if you actually listen to the songs I put on the stories, you'd hear there's a song with so much bass. The whole house
Mm.
was shaking all night long. And for them,
Shocking.
it's normal. And when they're not playing loud music, they're just
Listen,
fighting.
I gotta tell you, your parents should get the hell out of Clarkstorp if they can, because that's just I don't see a good, ending to that story. Clarkstorp
I
is just
see.
a terrible
Yeah,
place. It
it is a
really is.
very terrible place. Yeah, and I've been telling them for years. They just don't want to get out. And now the weirdest part of all is, despite these people not wanting to stop their music, even after my dad went there and said hi, because my parents are so polite. They're too polite.
Yeah.
That's the problem. My dad went
Well,
there at like
maybe he
11:30.
maybe he should tell them that he works for correctional services and he can get them a special room in the prison if they carry on like
Take them on a proper tour.
Like your classmate, Ryan, who got pushed
Oh
in a jail
yeah.
cell. But
Yeah.
now my dad at 11:30 goes up to them and is like, "Hi, sorry, I have a meeting, and yeah, can you please tell?" I was like, "Why are you saying you have a meeting? This is your home. What do you mean?"
Yeah.
And
You don't
then
need to make excuses.
yeah, and the worst part of all is the next day, and these people just drink. They just drink all day. They're quite
I feel like you're just talking like you're defining Clarkstorp at the moment.
they're trashy, is what I'm trying to say. Let me just put it blatantly.
So we often talk on the show about like irritating neighbors or what you do about people and what you can change and what you can't. And, you know, it's even worse because I read the same story that Mash did this week about a woman who found her husband's dead and decaying body in their house 8 months after he went missing. And I always
Yes.
wonder, like how much do husbands and wives hate each other when someone can die in the house and you only figure it out 8 months after they go missing that they're in the house? I mean,
You see.
how little do you two talk? How little do you have to do with each other? If you think you got a bad relationship, well, have I got news for you? Because there are people in much worse relationships than you, and they are among them.
Absolutely.
So this woman apparently was the husband went missing, and everybody's like, "Oh
Yes.
shit, where are we gonna find Tom or whatever his name was?"
Mm.
And they searched the neighborhood, and the police put out missing people warnings, and there's a milk cartons and all that stuff. And then the wife finally figures out. Now, I mean, you would know if there's a dead body in your house. You'd be able to tell from the smell. First of all, how big is this house? Second of all, like, where could you hide something like that?
Wait, they're in the
And
same house.
Yes.
yeah,
Oh, that's the part I never got. That okay. Go on.
this is a bizarre
Well,
story. That's
just
a lot worse than having noisy neighbors.
exactly. And to expand on that story, Gareth, it actually turned out that this couple, so the wife's name is Jennifer, and then the husband is Richard Mage. That's their surname. And Richard was 53. Jennifer, I can't remember exactly how Jennifer was. I think they were more or less the same age. But turns out they were also hoarders. So they were hoarders. Their house was just a hoarding factory, just full of crap.
So you
And
can
there
lose
were
a whole person.
and there were
for 8
funky
months.
smells. Yeah. When you're a hoarder, there's always funky smells. Your cat maybe died, dog died, you don't know where it died, you don't know when it died. It's just somewhere in the house. So those smells, you get used to them. And what happened was Richard was actually trying to reach somewhere in the house to get something. And he died of natural causes. It wasn't suspicious at all. And he just died in some cubby somewhere in some little corner. And then his body just decayed there. But because there was already weird smells in their house and they're already hoarders, Jennifer never noticed.
What gross people these must be.
Yeah.
I mean, when you talk about,
Horribly gross.
hoarders, I mean, there's a difference between being like a hoarder who and you collect, I don't know, just cardboard boxes, and your house is filled up with cardboard boxes, and then you got so much shit in there that like you wouldn't smell a decaying dead body, and you got like little cubby holes and cupboards and whatever it is. You don't notice that somewhere in that mess is an actual human being's body. 8 months it takes you.
And to make
Wow.
it worse, the police actually came to their house and
Oh
searched
my
their house twice. Two
Wait,
times.
gross.
they
Gross.
clearly didn't do a welfare check.
Oh,
we mock
gross.
we mock the Aussies,
Ugh.
but I mean, maybe they're onto something.
But that's what
Mm.
happens when you're a hoarder. It is that even the police are kind of grossed out. They're gonna go through everything. Maybe they smelled something and they found a dead cat,
Wait,
and they were like, "Oh, it's the cat."
Is
They
this
just
South
left it.
African?
No, it's American.
Okay, no, cops wouldn't do anything.
Don't even show up.
They wouldn't even go in.
Oh, it is so gross. The whole thing is just, it's so sickening. I can't think of a situation where you couldn't hide. Like, I know where everything is in my house, right? Even the
Mm.
rooms that I don't go into very much. And I live on my own here. So it's not like, someone's going to be hiding stuff from me or whatever. I know what's in every cupboard. And if I find something and go, "Ooh, I haven't seen that for months and months," that's because I'm really not paying attention. And that's never happened. So
Yes.
even though, there's probably some spaces that I haven't been in, like the roof. I haven't been to the ceiling for a long time. But
Mm.
I'll occasionally, every couple of months I'll put like rat poison up there, or I'll need to, I don't know, check if there's a leak in the roof or whatever. You
Mm.
sometimes have a reason to. Other than that, there's no way. I don't have a basement that I could hide things in. I don't have secret passages or rooms. How
Mm.
does this happen? You've got to be
So
really. Maybe they gross, dirty people,
yes.
or she is as dumb as a box of rocks.
Mara, shame. I don't think she's dumb. I mean, the police also came, they didn't find anything. But I must also note that after he was found, initially it was ruled, his death was ruled as suicide. Basically, they said he just crawled into some little corner in their hoarder home and
Oh,
just
wow.
laid there to die.
Yeah.
He just waited to
Well,
die there. And
maybe
I
maybe
mean,
maybe she was such a horrible wife that he couldn't wait. Couldn't wait. You know, there are people
Speed
who are
up the
so
process.
unhappily married. Oh my god. There's some people who are so unhappily married they can't wait to die. They'll do anything to just get out of their whoever it is life, Just unreal.
Mm.
that
Anyway,
is absolutely true.
listen, I am actually very, very worried about Joe Biden. I mean, I know we don't talk about American politics all the time because it's kind of boring, and I think there's a lot of it that's overdone. But he just ignores. He's got a grandchild. Hunter Biden had a kid with that out of wedlock. The hooker.
Yeah.
Hunter Biden is Joe's son, and he actually has 7 grandchildren, but he only acknowledges 6 of them. So he just ignores this other kid, even though his son Hunter pays support to the mother. And there's an ongoing court case to reduce payments, and they don't acknowledge that this kid even exists. Now, we talk about deadbeat dads on this show often. We talk about like dads who don't take responsibility for their kids. Here's the president of the United States who refused to acknowledge his 7th grandchild. Now, if Donald Trump did this, don't you think it would be front page news every day of the
yeah.
week? I mean,
Front page
they would
news.
never stop talking about it. This is unbelievable. Donald Trump, you can call him many things. He's had, 3 wives. He's had many affairs. He's got, kids, but he looks after his kids. He looks after his grandchildren. He may not be the best father or grandfather in the world, but he's certainly better than Joe, who just ignores this kid. The kid is called Navy Joan Roberts. I mean, it's just
Navy's the name.
Navy blue.
Wow.
They won't even talk about this kid. Hunter's paying $20,000 a month in support, and Joe just doesn't even pretend he pretends the kid doesn't exist. I mean, that is gross, right?
Gareth, I think you're giving him too much credit. I think he just can't remember, to be honest.
Yeah. He's just out of it.
No, it's
I don't think Joe knows what's going on. Probably
no,
you're right.
he's. It's
Anyway,
I find it unbelievable that somebody that old can run a country,
Oh my god!
or the fact that it's even allowed.
I was talking to someone about this just yesterday. I mean, there's a minimum age. Like you cannot be president, I think, until you're 40 or 35, something like that. But there's a minimum
Until you're
age.
40?
Yeah, you have to be a minimum of 35 or 40. I can't remember which one it is, but they don't have an upper age limit, which is insane.
So
Anyway,
you could be 100.
Yeah, Tracy says, do not pussyfoot around noisy and annoying neighbors ever. They will grind you down and wear you out. Your dad will end up grumpy like Clint Eastwood and no place for old men.
Yeesh, that is true. That
When
is
my
true.
neighbors do this slippery pickle, I need to use my chainsaw first thing the next morning. Yeah, that's a good idea. A leaf blower will sort out noisy neighbors.
Yeah.
Can
yeah.
I just tell you? So my family owns like a place in Marloth Park, right? They do like
That's
the Airbnb thing
in the Kruger. Yeah.
in the Kruger,
Yes.
yeah. So this place, and I don't know if anyone who's listening is from there or knows anyone from there, but it is the most like the people that live there that don't have the holiday homes that just live there. They are the
Mhm.
most pedantic
Oh God.
and the most annoying people because like we have a noise group, right, on WhatsApp. Basically, it's the entire town. And if they hear a house that's like even if it's a minute past 10, that's just a bit loud, they're like, house number 43 on this and this road is being horribly noisy, and we're gonna call the sheriff or something like that.
But it's typical, right? So it's far out of town, so all they have is each other. So these people get
Yeah.
bored, start looking for trouble. There is a difference between being a good, decent neighbor and being an interfering pain in the ass neighbor. And I'll tell you what, these neighborhood groups, these WhatsApp groups,
Mm.
woo, once you start down that dark path, forever will it dominate your destiny. I mean, the people who live on those groups, it's fine if you're like suggesting here's a guy who can do garden services, or here's a
Yeah.
painter, or here's someone who can fix your gate if it breaks, or any of that
Mm.
stuff. That's all good. Where it's a problem is like, so apparently in my neighborhood, there's some kids who are like going around and like knocking on the door at whatever
Oh,
time.
they're playing Ding Dong Ditch.
Oh dear.
And like you must see how much bullshit goes on here. Like, I don't think this is acceptable. And if the kids do that again, I'm gonna call the police. And you're like, call the police over some kids knocking on your door? Calm down. Everybody must
See,
just calm the hell down.
the-
I mean, I don't get involved in any of that stuff because I know that the kind of people who get into those conversations are a big, big problem. And I'm sure these are the kind of people you're talking about, Ryan.
And it's the funniest thing because the people who come on holiday, they really don't give a shit. And there was one guy I'll never forget. So they went and confronted him, and he was obviously drinking and smoking, and he was just having the time of his life. And he was about to get into his car to go to the shop or something, and they like took a photo of him to put on the WhatsApp group. So he bent over and pulled his pants down, and then they posted that picture on the WhatsApp group.
Oh jeez.
Wow.
Oh,
Childish, but fantastic.
I have a friend who she always visits her mother's house, and her mother is in one of these WhatsApp groups, and her son lives with her mother. And I remember one of the neighbors' cars got scratched, and this guy whose car got scratched actually accused my friend's son, who lives with her mother, basically his grandmother. And this person actually went to my friend's mother's house and was swearing and was being, above all, was being racist even, actually. And just saying all kinds of horrible things. And turned out it wasn't even her son. It wasn't even her son. This person was even posting on the group chat saying horrible, terrible things about my friend and her son. And turns out it wasn't even her son.
I really don't think these neighborhood groups are like, and there's no benefit to having them because if a message comes up, it's just complaining.
There are a few, and if something serious happens, it's good to have them. But I do think it's like a 90-10% ratio.
Yeah, yeah, 90, which is good.
Listen, we got to talk about Prime Energy drink because Ryan is he's so excited about this.
I saw videos on TikTok of people literally lined up and just bundled up outside Checkers, just waiting for the doors to open. I was like, oh, this is so weird. It's not like it's going to sell out. That's so weird.
Listen, Ryan went to the trouble, and I do have to thank him for this. And I said it in the meeting yesterday. But Ryan keeps me on my toes. Like I wouldn't even have known about this thing unless he was on the show. And Mash, I think you're also at the stage where you're like, you don't get involved in all that stuff, right? So
Mash thinks he's above everyone else as like an influencer.
Does he think Maybe he is, for all we know, right?
I literally
Maybe
am
he
an
is.
influencer.
Maybe he is an influencer. He has people who follow him for all kinds of info and guidance and advice. But Ryan bought this. Yeah, bought this for me. So here it is, and we're going to try it
Ryan
now.
got me one too. So I guess
Oh.
is this a paid promo?
No.
No.
I just thought you'd try it.
Okay.
All right. So what do we do? Are we going to do a little taste test?
Yeah, why not?
That's
Live
the
on the
idea
show.
here.
We're doing
Because-
it so you don't have to.
So Lebang said yesterday that hers tasted like Oros, and she's not impressed at all.
What
So
color
what-
did Lebang have?
I don't know what she had.
You were the only one in the studio with her, so
Oh
You
no,
don't-
she had that one that I was going to give to you, but she didn't. She didn't
Oh.
try it. I think she had another one.
so she wasn't lying though, because she said it tasted like Oros.
Yeah.
It says,
But this is only a 2 grams of sugar, just by the way. So
let's read
All
the
right, so-
instructions. It says shake well before opening, refrigerate after opening, and consume within 3 days.
Okay, so let's go.
I'll
Let's
taste it.
test this
Coconut
out.
water base. Coconut water base.
See if the hype is worth it.
What flavor is that, Gareth?
It's
called
tropical, I think.
Punch.
Okay, this is lemon
And this
lime,
is
rather.
blue raspberry. You know.
All right. Well, it's not the worst thing I've ever had. It's really not, and I don't think it tastes like Oros. It tastes a lot better than that.
Is it worth the $40?
What does Red Bull cost?
What are we on now? 27, 30?
Okay, so it's
I would say
26 Rand.
26.
Yeah.
okay, so it's more expensive than Red Bull. Listen, I don't know if it's worth $40, and I still don't see the hype. But there we go. I mean, good for these guys, right? They can create a product. This is what Logan Paul and company. So
Yeah.
they can create a product
And
where
KSI.
all these Latweezies are running around trying to get this, talking their parents into doing this stuff and buying this stuff and paying for it. Even when it was like $800. I think Ryan is a Latweezy, actually.
Ryan is a high key Latweezy, and he wears shirts with skeletons. He's always wearing black. He is a Latweezy. We noticed a while ago in the office.
Well, we know we've got a Latweezy on the show. All right, fantastic. Don't ever say we're irrelevant. We have our own Latweezy.
I'm just not connected. I'm like, I might be part of it, but I'm not connected to the.
Right. Well, it's not horrible, and I don't think it tastes like Oros, but I don't know that I would spend that money getting it for myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not for me, but it is for people out there. I can understand the hype. It doesn't taste bad. It's just not for me.
I see Ricky Lowe saying they're selling the empty bottles for $20.
Oh,
If
wow.
that's true, then what a bargain.
To do what with?
It is amazing.
Get your money
that-
back.
It is amazing that people need energy drinks, right? Because they're so tired, they're so overworked. People have long hours. They're exhausted the whole time. They don't sleep properly. These energy drinks are just a massive way to make money. I saw Monster Energy have just sold to some American company. You know, Monster was developed here in South Africa, and they've just sold, I don't know, part of the company or most of the company or all of it. I can't remember what it was, but for a couple of $1 million. And I say good for them. If people are so tired that the energy drink is the first thing they go for and they're willing to pay, in this case, $40 for this, good for you guys. I'm not going to be one of your regular customers, but good for you.
No, I like Monster. That got me through college, to be honest.
You see,
long hours.
I never did energy drinks as a regular, but I mean, my one friend, she is constantly on these energy drinks. Look, for some reason, I don't know. She's never lazy. She's never like sleepy, but I don't know how good it is for you. Hey, let's see who's on the line. Hang on. I just want to see who's on here. Okay. Hello.
Hello.
Yo.
Hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear. Go ahead.
My name is Cedric. I'm 102 years old, and I must be the oldest person on your.
All right.
It was my birthday today, And I feel great, man.
Have you ever tried Prime Energy drink, Cedric?
And I tried that drink, and it was great. Whoa, whoa, better than a tequila.
Whoa.
Whoa.
I love it. Cedric, thank
Whoa,
you.
Cedric.
That's all right. Get all kinds of cool stuff.
Oh,
All right.
man.
Quickly
That's
tell
funny.
you, Cedric, you need to know about this. There's a new episode of Beyond Madness, and this is especially relevant to Cedric and other people who are 100 years old. So Prof. Zabo, who was on with us just the other day, people loved having him on the show.
Yeah.
The loss
cool.
of somebody close to you is an inevitable consequence of life, especially for you, Cedric. Inevitable as it is, are we ever fully prepared for how it impacts us? Now, listen, I mean, you're going to lose someone in your life, whether you're young or old, like Cedric. So this week on Beyond Madness, Professor Mark Goldblatt and Dr. Lillian Kabiron join Professor Christopher Paul Zabo as they delve into the grieving process. So this is relevant to anyone of any age. You can lose someone at some point. You're going to need to know how to deal with it. You're going to need to know what stages you go through. I think it's fascinating to know this stuff, even if you're just observing it as someone who's interested. Check out Beyond Madness, brought to you in proud association with Adcock Ingram OTC, the sponsors of Brave, and listen wherever you get your podcasts. Now you know. I got an email from Grant, who thinks that Ryan is not doing his job properly.
Oh, God. Here we go.
I know
Lay it
she's
on
gonna
me.
love it.
Let's go.
All right, so Grant says, hey, Gareth, just to correct what Ryan said, he thinks he knows what's going on about the super chat on YouTube. You don't have to. You remember we talked about this, Mash?
Yeah.
And
yeah,
Ryan
I think it
has,
was this
Ryan
time
has
last
kind
week.
of- it sounded like a bullshit answer where people need to subscribe and pay money. But Grant says the super chat thing, you don't have to enable subscriptions, more correctly, memberships on your channel in order to enable
Right.
super chat. Supers are a separate feature. You can enable super chat, super stickers, and super thanks independently. This guy knows what he's talking about. We should hire him. Maybe
Clearly.
get rid of Ryan. What do you think, Mash? I mean, this is
Sign me up. Sign me up.
Yeah.
okay.
enabling super chat allows your viewers during a live stream to comment and have that comment highlighted and pinned at the top of the comment section. And the more they
Right.
pay, there is payment involved. The longer the comment at the top. You, of course, receive a portion of the amount they pay. I think it's around 70%, excluding fees and taxes. You can also blacklist certain chat words or ban harassing viewers. Well, why would anyone ban the harassing viewers? Those are the ones I love the most. I mean, 90% of our comment section is harassment, right? Super stickers
is.
basically allows them to add an animated sticker to the comments for your viewers watching the video after the live stream. Super thanks will allow your viewers to thank you by donating an amount and also allows them to leave a comment, which is highlighted. You'll get
So
a
essentially, I think what he's trying to say is essentially it's a tip jar.
right.
Basically.
That's not what you said.
No. I
So-
didn't realize you could have an independent tip jar
Okay, well,
and have the subscription service. So this is new to me.
he also
But
said,
it still includes payments.
Grant also, you got that part right. Grant says
Yes.
there are short videos that YouTube has made to describe the features and how you enable them. Just watch the first minute of each video to get an idea. Ryan can waste his time watching the rest. As always, thank you for the great show. Cheers. Regards, Grant. Well, thank you, Grant.
Thanks,
That's
Grant.
very, very helpful. And in future, if I have questions, I'm going to ask Grant. Okay. And then another thing that we'll be doing in just a few minutes from now is we'll be checking in with Sean Sanders, because a lot of people are deeply unhappy about what's been happening with crypto lately, and they want someone to blame. And Sean Sanders has been a friend of the show for the longest time, and Revix has been a platform that we told you about from their inception. And some people have made tremendous money out of this. Some people have lost money. Some people are still hovering around there. I've still got my investment in Revix, and I
Same.
haven't looked. I haven't looked for some time because, frankly, I know that crypto's been in the toilet, but apparently it's been on the up and up. So we're going to find out from Sean, because he's not the kind of guy who tries to hide. He's going to tell us what's going on. And he's also going to tell us whether we should put in more, take out what we've got. He's going to be straightforward and straight up with us. and we'll hopefully find out all about what they're up to. Get an update from Sean Sanders at Revix a little bit later on, because people often ask about that. Also, later on, we've got Michael Jordaan, who is one of South Africa's most brilliant entrepreneurs. He's also the guy who ran FNB, one of the biggest banks in the country. At, the unbelievable age of, I think, 35, he was in charge of FNB, which is
That's got to be the youngest. That's got to
unbelievable.
be the
Yeah.
youngest.
And he was the guy behind all the innovation that was taking place there at the time. You know, FNB was just streets ahead of the competition when he was the CEO. So we'll find out from him what he's up to at the moment, what he believes are the greatest tips that he can give people who are in business. And he's got some unbelievably sensible advice about how to pick the right people, where to put your energy, what sort of things you should look at if you're the CEO of a business, or if you want to be the CEO of a business. So if you're interested in any of that stuff, and I'm sure you would be, you need to hear Michael Jordaan. And we had a nice, fun, friendly chat. He will be our guest just after 7 this morning. I'm very excited to bring that to you. I had the most amazing conversation yesterday with Peter Dirk Ace.
Yes.
Oh, man. I mean, Ryan, you were sitting in the interview. I have seldom spoken to someone who's told me stories that were as moving as this, and I've never heard these stories before from him. Peter Dirk Ace is a treasure in South Africa, and I think he's approaching 80 years old, but he's as
he doesn't look it.
Dude, he's as lively as can be, and he has such incredible experiences to tell about. And he's one of the best people you could listen to. He's on such good form. So stick around for that. That's going to be amazing. All right. Let's see what else we got going on here. I can't drink any energy drinks, not even something like Powerade. I get kidney stones from it, says Nico.
I haven't gotten that far yet. I'd slow down on my Monster consumption because of that.
You know,
I was just being cautious.
Ryan still drinks Coke full time, and my first response is always, "Aren't you scared of kidney stones?" I've watched videos of people pushing those out. It's terrifying.
Yeah,
those are horrible videos to watch.
Again, but if you do anything in excess, right, Mash? Anything you do, you're going to get problems.
Always.
If you overdrink, if you smoke too much, if you have a gambling addiction, whatever it is, you overdo that stuff, you're going to end up in big trouble. A lot of people climbing in on Ryan, saying how useless Ryan is, and they're glad that Grant corrected Ryan. I think that's very, very mean. So I don't know that's necessary, everybody. Have you ever seen an old video of Evita and Cyril fly fishing? Yeah, you see, this is the other thing, is that Peter Dirk Ace and Evita, his his alter ego, has depth of incredible personal connections with so many people who are, he's danced on stage with Nelson Mandela, met the most famous people in the world. And there's one story that I don't want to throw in until we actually have I'll save it for next week. But the hair on your arms will stand up. It's that good. It's that incredible.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy.
Anyway, Ryan has not had water to drink since 2017, says Nico. Is that true?
Yes.
I believe that.
Yes.
I buy that.
No, I can't stand water. I feel like I'm drowning whenever I drink it.
That's ridiculous, Ryan. Water is
sometimes,
so
sometimes we must just keep quiet when you speak, because
George Meany says, I started on Red Bull when they came out, then moved to sugar-free, then watched a video of what the stuff does to your body, so I stopped. Now I abuse coffee. Well, is that any better, George? Is that any better to do coffee?
Yeah, I don't know. But he said it's going to catch up with me if I keep going the way I'm going.
Yeah.
All right.
So I'll work on it.
It wouldn't be a Wednesday if we didn't let Ryan fanboy for a little while about Elon Musk. So you were telling me just before the show started that he's doing some live thing at the moment, and everybody's going crazy. He was on Bill Maher, which is a show I watch regularly, and he was on for like 20 minutes or so, which is ridiculous because Bill usually only has that guest on for like 5 minutes in the beginning. So he obviously loved having Elon on. And I thought he made a lot of sense. It was one of the best interviews I've seen with Elon Musk, because
Take notes, BBC. You know?
because Bill Maher actually did some work. He like knows a lot about Elon. He asked him sensible, useful, interesting questions. So I have to say, like, it's a relief to see someone finally asking some sensible shit of the world's most brilliant living genius, and someone who's
Well, I mean, he's
the
just
richest man in the
released.
world.
There's a new feature on Twitter now. I don't know when last you were on it, Gareth. I know you don't spend much time on Twitter,
No,
but so
not
it's
at all.
called Community Notes, right?
Oh.
And so
Mhm.
basically, it's this feature where when people put content out, whether it be an article or a video or some sort of
Mhm.
content, and it can be in any kind of capacity. If you
Right.
want to make sure it's a verified source, then you tag Community Notes. And what this like account does is it then puts perspective into the article, so it's not taken out of context. And so I've got an example here. What happened on the weekend, I was laughing because there was this video that these two young influencers put up. You're gonna hate this so much. It's gonna be great. let me play this for you. So these are two young guys that posted this thing on Twitter.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna play it for you, and then I'm gonna show you what this Community Notes feature
What the
does.
Republican Party doesn't understand about Gen Z is we don't like you. You claim you want to appeal to Gen Z, but you call us stupid, you say we're dumb, you say we're indoctrinated. I promise it's a losing strategy. And Gen Z is watching the Republican Party extremely closely as they destroy our environment, take rights away from women, do nothing about kids being shot in schools, and if they think they can give the middle finger to our generation and get away with it, they're sorely mistaken.
How annoying, right? I know, I bet you love that. So somebody
Ugh.
tagged Community Notes, and this is what came up. And Elon Musk shared it. That's how I found out. And he was like, "This is a good thing for Community Notes." It says here that these two influencers are paid political operatives managed by Pallet Management, which get funding from the Democratic Party. How crazy is that? And now we live in a world where there's paid
I
political
love this.
operatives.
Well, yeah, but a lot of people are paid political operatives, and I think this is awesome. So this comes up now, like those stupid warnings whenever you would say anything about COVID, and then anything except like the party line on COVID, they would say this could be misinformation or disinformation. You remember whenever you'd post, and they still did that with they still do it with climate change stuff and all kinds of other things. So now we know those two people are bullshit artists because they're being paid. Sisson and Maury. They are paid political operatives. I think this is epic. We need more of this.
Great,
We need
right?
to see
more
this.
of this.
Yeah, that's epic.
So now
I love that.
they put out a
Yeah.
video that said,
I
"No,
think we
we."
got someone on the line. Yeah, go ahead.
All
Is
right.
this Cedric again? Hello? Hang on a second. Wait. Yeah, we can hear you now. Go ahead. Hello?
Hello.
No?
Yeah.
Yeah, can you hear me? Sorry. Yeah, it's not Cedric this time.
Oh, damn.
I'm just listening. Sorry. I'm just listening to Ryan talking about the political operatives.
Mhm.
You really have to bring up the fact that the Democratic Party has just gone on strike. Well, not the Democratic Party, the Writers Guild for Seth Meyers, Jimmy Fallon, Jimmy Kimmel, all those guys.
Which basically is the Democratic Party. I mean,
Exactly my point.
yeah, so those stupid talk shows, apparently as soon as the writers went on strike, they just canceled the shows because they realized like Jimmy Kimmel, Jimmy Fallon, all of these guys. Yeah. As soon as their writers go on strike, they've got nothing, right? Because none of these people can do any of their own work. They've all got a team of writers, like 50, 60 people who are writing for them on these dumb shows, which, by the way, are losing audience hand over fist at the moment.
Absolutely.
No one's watching these shows compared to the kind of audiences that they had before social media, before people had options. These shows are a total failure. So are you surprised that these guys can't do a show without their writers? I'm not.
Well, the fact that they're actually scared that AI is going to start doing the writing just shows you how transparent they are in the idea that they don't actually know what they're doing. They are literally just pushing an agenda.
Right.
And it's hilarious.
So I wonder how long it'll be before we get like a warning every time a Jimmy Kimmel or Jimmy Fallon post is put up. Saying these
you
guys
get a warning every
These guys are political operatives. They're paid by the Democratic Party. It'll happen.
It has to happen. But then if you do that, then every time you switch on a news channel that isn't anything else, you should be getting that warning anyway.
Yeah. Well, at least then what this will do is it'll make us trust Twitter more than the news channels. And I think that may be the situation people are hoping for, where it's like, oh, okay, well, we can get something here that tells us who's paying these people. Because I don't believe for a second that anyone is going to be doing a political message for directly against a political party or for it unless they're being paid. So I would be suspicious of those people anyway, wouldn't you?
Yeah, exactly. Nobody's doing anything for free these days anyway.
No. And they're all just bullshit artists. They'll all do whatever you pay them to do. These influencers, right?
Everybody's commenting like, how can you sell out your country for $200?
You know what?
You know,
people will. I mean, you remember Mash, Ryan. You remember all those people with the when the ANC had a concert or an event, they'd pay these people hundreds of thousands of bucks to come, and then they would be supporting the ANC, and then everyone would say, "But how can you be supporting this party when we don't have electricity and our parents and grandparents are living in squalor in townships and rural areas?" And they were like, "Well, no, I support I've always been an ANC supporter." Meanwhile, it was just money being put in.
It was just a paycheck. Yeah. Reminds me a lot of I used to watch The Daily Show with Trevor Noah. And when it first started, when he first got on the airwaves there on Comedy Central, I really did enjoy it quite a lot. But then I stopped watching it because it just felt so repetitive. It was just always bashing Republicans. And I was like, hi, man. It's like the Democrats never do anything wrong here. It's always bash the Republicans. So I don't know. Maybe we might need this Twitter notes feature. Is that what it's called, Ryan? Community notes.
Yeah.
We might need it everywhere.
I love that. That's awesome. All right. Well, I do see that there are a couple other things that everybody wants to talk about this morning. I know that Mash wants to talk about how millennials are describing LinkedIn, which I must tell you, like, I don't go on LinkedIn often, but I hear from everybody. If you're looking for someone to fill a certain role in your business, or if you are looking for a job in someone else's business, LinkedIn is still the place to go. But millennials are apparently describing LinkedIn as cringe.
They are. They absolutely are. And the reason behind this is throughout the years, millennials being, I think, what's the age group of millennials in particular? It's mid to late 20s?
Yeah, I'd just make the cut. I think it's like, they're probably like 25.
They're
the
older than
age.
Ryan. Yeah, they're older than Ryan.
Older than me. I'd just make the
Ryan
cut.
younger than me.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, millennials are describing LinkedIn as cringe. And the main reason for this is because the content on there's a lot of pontification on LinkedIn. And you get people saying things that are so simple that you always think to yourself, you could have said this in one sentence. And I'm gonna actually give you an example of one cringe thing that has been circulating on Reddit. So somebody on LinkedIn wrote, I am honored and thrilled to announce that I've been selected among the top 5 applicants who participated in the professional and most respected exam, which evaluates the skill and ability to operate fuel-based vehicles. I cannot wait to see what the next chapter holds, and I cannot express my appreciation to the Ministry of Transportation, Google, NASA, and my neighbors who supported me during this challenging journey. That's what somebody wrote on LinkedIn. But in reality, they were just saying, I got my driver's license. And that just goes to show you the cringe factor.
Yeah. Well, Grace says millennials calling other people cringe. Peak irony. Those yeah. Boomers will still puss club a Gen Z, etc., says Steve, because Steve's obviously a boomer then. That's what I'm going to say. Millennials sound young, but alas. I saw this funny thing the other day. Someone was like, if you say that you're in your 30s or 40s, it makes you sound old. But if you say, I'm a 90s kid, it makes you sound young. All about packaging, right?
It's all about packaging.
What's scary is like the 80s are 40 years ago.
Whoa. Seriously?
Exactly. Yeah.
Wow.
It's a long ass time. So if people say, I really like 80s music, you got to look for their walking stick, right?
40 years. That's
Yep.
insane. It's hard to think that the 2000s are 20 years ago.
The
Listen,
2000s are 20 years ago?
Just,
mhm.
yeah, plus minus.
Whoa.
Think about it, Mash. It's 2023. It's 23
You know,
years ago that we
I-
had the millennium.
I noticed on Apple Music, whenever I play these classics playlists with like classical R&B or classic R&B or whatever, I get songs that I grew up with and like songs that came out when I was growing up. And I'm like, I'm not that old. When I have classics, Kerry Hilson and Beyonce, Destiny's
Ooh.
Child are not classics. But looking back, you're like,
Ooh.
damn.
Listen to this. George is firing shots this morning. He says, all the big tech entrepreneurs are late 40s and 50s. What have the teens of today invented? Ooh,
Oh,
firing
damn.
shots from George. Okay, listen. Let's leave that alone for a second because I know people have been very keen to hear from Sean Sanders, and it's been a while. It's time for an update on Beyond Bitcoin. It's been a couple of months. Here he is, Sean Sanders from Revix, and time to catch up with you. Hey, Sean, how you doing?
Morning, guys. I'm good. Long time no see, eh?
Yeah, nice to see
good,
you, dude.
good.
And people have been asking, where is Sean? Where is Sean? Where is Sean? So here you are finally to give us a long-awaited update. What has been happening? First of all, what has happened in the world of Revix since we last spoke? Because a lot of people have lost their love for crypto. Some other people have stayed with it and held on, and some have done well and some have done poorly. So give us an overall view from your point of view, and then we can catch up on the details.
Yeah, sure. So a lot has happened, right? I mean, the last time we were on the show, we were talking about this big inflation monster that was going to be coming. And I went on and on and on about this. It came and
You were
it
right.
has been bad for the last while, right? I mean, that was something that we spoke about, when we were printing, 20% of all dollars in circulation, and boom,
Correct.
it happened, right? And it's still going on. It's probably not going away anytime soon. But anyway, we've been living with that. Bitcoin's sitting at $28,500 right now. It's actually had a pretty good year. It's up 73% year to date. Ethereum's up to $1,860. That's up 65% year to date. The crypto market's actually climbed in every single month of this year. And that's after what happened in 2022, which is sort of the year that everyone wants to forget in the crypto space. It was a very challenging year. You obviously had that massive blowout with FTX that really impacted the market. It impacted this entire industry, right? I've spent a lot of time in the background looking to rebuild credibility for the crypto space, and then also for Revix. We were one of the fortunate platforms that weren't impacted at all by what happened last year. We actually got fully licensed by the FSCA, so that's both for a Category 1 and Category 2 license. Essentially, that's for
what does that mean, Sean? What do those licenses mean?
So we can't actually get licensed yet for crypto. So we'll be applying on the 1st of June when you can actually apply for the first time to be a crypto asset service provider in South Africa.
Right.
But these Cat 1 and Cat 2 licenses, they pave the way for us to launch the themes on our platform that we've been looking to launch for quite some time. So we essentially can provide brokerage services like what you'd have with a stockbroker, as well as financial advice. And that's what that Cat 2 license is for. So we've done that.
Right.
We've raised $4 million in a funding round. We did that over the last several months. That was a lot of my time, probably one of the reasons I wasn't here as well. You've got to make sure that you've got ample runway and the ability to grow internationally. We spent a lot of time working with a major South African bank to actually launch crypto to their customers. So this has been something that's been going on in the background. You cannot believe how slowly banks move. I know everyone speaks about this, but we've lived this sort of firsthand. And we've actually launched 10 new cryptocurrencies on our platform and a new crypto bundle. So it's been a very busy period in the background, even though, there hasn't been too much with us, I guess, in our Cliff Central.
Yeah, you see, the problem is just, I suppose, when people don't have this stuff front and center, they start thinking, oh boy, maybe I should get out. Maybe everything's collapsed. Maybe it's like a Sam Bankman-Fried thing. And that guy really did a huge amount of damage to the reputation of crypto and all these platforms and everything else. And I think there are a lot of people who are a bit disenchanted. I mean, I've kept my Revix investments exactly the same. And I looked at it just now because I knew we were going to talk to you. And I mean, this doesn't count as any kind of advice or anything, but I do think, it's been a very good idea for me to hold on rather than to sink at the lowest possible level, because I think a lot of people want to sell when everything's down because you think, oh no, I don't want to lose even more. And then you sell at the wrong time. This has happened over and over again. What is that thing that Buffett says? when others are greedy, be fearful. When others are fearful, be greedy. What would you say? And again, this doesn't constitute financial advice, but it's good advice generally. And we spoke to Dylan yesterday about like markets in general and what's been happening. You were quite right about inflation. People knee-jerk reactions are almost always bad, right, Sean?
Yeah, they are. 9 times out of 10, 99 times out of 100. If you have to sort of look into the future, right, because that's what you need to do when you're investing, and you go, okay, so inflation gradually comes down over the next 12 odd months, and we land up seeing interest rates and the Fed's fund rates, all these different sort of Fed central bank rates around the world, they land up then coming down as well. That's the opportune time to be jumping into risk assets being like cryptocurrencies or stocks. Right now, it's an uncertain period. It's going to remain uncertain. I mean, no one's going to be able to say like right now is the exact time to buy. But what you saw last year was an incredibly challenging year for the crypto space. I mean, you had interest rates that went sky high. The interest rates actually increased at a faster rate than they've ever increased before in the US and in the UK. So, that's the worst thing for risk assets. And I'm not going to get into too much detail on why exactly that impacts risk assets, but that's on the one side. Then you just had the failure of, Celsius, 3 Arrows Capital, FTX. I mean, there's a list, there's literally pages of the crypto firms that went under. And we've said this as well on the show many times before. You need crypto regulation in order for the space to mature. You can't have big banks or big financial service providers entering the space, even high net worth individuals, until you actually have regulation. And that's finally changing. And I mean, it's changing slowly, but you've got pretty much every major regulator around the world looking at the crypto space. And if you rewind, 3 years ago, this wasn't the case. I mean, most regulators, even the FSCA in South Africa, they publicly said that they were hoping that this would go away. Like this crypto thing would just go away. And all of a sudden, it's still here. It's bigger. You've got banks in Switzerland and Germany. I was actually just over in Hong Kong now. Hong Kong's introduced their own crypto regulations. This is great to see. It actually means that major financial institutions are offering crypto deposits and crypto withdrawals, crypto transactional services. And that's when I know that it's sort of gone mainstream. So I think this is a long-term journey. It's not a short-term move.
So Vyasan wants to know a very specific thing. He says, what is happening with Cardano and Polkadot and Solana? Have you still got those available on your platform?
Yeah, we do. So all of those are smart contract oriented cryptocurrencies. And what that means really is that you've got applications that are being built on top of them. So we've actually got a bundle that provides exposure to the top 5 smart contract oriented cryptocurrencies. It's called the Smart Contract Bundle, a very original name. And yeah, you can go ahead and you can invest in that. These are interesting cryptocurrencies because they grow based on the adoption of these different applications that sit on top of them, right? So if you can imagine you've got the Cardano network, and then you happen to get a payment application or even, Web3 equivalent of say YouTube or Facebook or something along those lines, and those applications blow up, well, those underlying ecosystems or the blockchain networks, they land up doing exceptionally well. So, because you've seen this entire market get a bit depressed, you've had those impacted sort of the most, in particular with the likes of Solana and Polkadot. Solana was very tied to FTX. So I think Solana is still looking to build a lot of its, lost reputation back as well.
All right. So tell us about the new blue chip crypto bundle that you've launched. We know about blue chip stocks and blue chip indices on the stock exchanges of the world, where you get a couple of the best companies. They're called the blue chip stocks. They're the ones that are old, tried, tested, give a good return. They're safe investments. People put enormous what would you call it? They attach credibility and value to them in a way that they don't newer and more flippant stocks. I mean, is that kind of what the blue chip crypto bundle is?
You hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what the blue chip bundle is all about. So what we did is we said, okay, we've got a top 10 bundle, right? So you can get the exposure to the top 10 largest cryptocurrencies. It's kind of like a low cost index fund that you can get exposure to. And we said, okay, well, we've got customers that want exposure to sort of the top performers across the different crypto sectors. So just like in the stock market, you've got the technology sector, you've got the energy sector, you've got you go through all the different sectors that exist. You can then go and you can own the top performer in each of these sectors, or the largest name in each of these sectors. So, for beverages, you can own Coca-Cola. For technology, you can own Apple, you can own Shell or BP. For the energy sector. And if you did this over a very long period of time, well, you would have performed exceptionally well, and you wouldn't have had as much risk as if you had held some of the smaller names because, they're not as established. So we've taken that same approach and we've applied it to the crypto space. So with our blue chip bundle, you can get exposure to the top 10 largest crypto sectors and naturally the top 10 largest names within each of those sectors. So you'll end up getting diversified exposure across the market. And if you look at the performance as well of our blue chip bundle relative to the likes of Ethereum or Bitcoin, I mean, if we look over the longer term, because many of these blue chip sectors, and this is also quite an interesting thing, I mean, these sectors didn't exist 3-4 years ago. They've really sort of only really emerged over the last 2 or so years. But if you look since the start of 2021, I mean, the blue chip bundle has returned 815%. And if you compare that to Ethereum, I mean, Ethereum's up about 140 odd percent. Bitcoin was down 1.5% over that period. So the idea really is you want to own the top performers in the space. You want to own sort of the most established players, because if this market increases again in the future, well, it's very likely that one of these cryptocurrencies or 2 or 3 or 4 of these cryptocurrencies will do exceptionally well. And that's, I mean, the fundamental premise behind this bundle.
Well, you've often said it to us, and I think it's very good advice, is that you've got to zoom out a little bit and look at this thing from a longer term point of view. And I think a lot of people get so caught up in the day-to-day changes on, the prices of certain things that they kind of forget that the market is moving steadily in one direction or the other. And finally, the big question, and one that I think I'm asking on behalf of a lot of people, some of whom have fallen out of love with crypto, and there's still some people who are very nervous about it because of all the things that have happened in the last year or two. Is it a good time to be investing in crypto again? Would you invest or reinvest now?
This is always boring advice. I know people want to hear, hey, listen, this is the time to get into the market. But you've got to start slow and you've got to start somewhere. And I think in the crypto space, I'll use a stat now. I'm always hesitant to use past performance for any sort of indication of future performance. I mean, I'm the finance guy, right? But in the past decade, so looking over the last 10 years, when you've had a 4-month winning streak for Bitcoin in particular, you've seen a further increase of 260% over the following 12 months. So, the best indicator within the crypto space is momentum. So when the market starts to do well, more people get in, crypto firms have more marketing dollars, they spend more money on marketing, and you get the sort of bubble up effect in the market. So that could happen. I don't know if that will happen, but the positive signs that I'm seeing in the crypto market, you're seeing regulation develop, which is fantastic to see. That means you've got better players in the space. 2022 was a weeding year. You've weeded out a lot of bad players and bad actors, and that's been a massive positive for this ecosystem. And I think as well, the technological advancements happening in the background. You had the Ethereum upgrade, which happened just a few months ago. I mean, that was a massive development within the crypto space. Every other cryptocurrency, remember, these are technology. They're all advancing. They're kind of going from Windows 95 to 2000 to, upwards and onwards. And that's the exciting part about this space, is these technologies will continue to advance and you'll get more users that are entering the space. I think stable coins as well, they've emerged and they're massive, right? If you've never engaged with a stable coin, go try and make a payment to a foreign bank using the Swift network. So that's just a bank-to-bank payment, and then go make a stable coin payment. It's literally like night and day. So, the boring advice I say is, look out over the long term. The best Revix customers that we have just bought and held investments. By far, and I'm not talking about making an extra 10 or 15%. I'm talking hundreds of percent better returns by simply buying and holding over the long term, not incurring high trading fees. And I mean, that's ultimately what we try and incentivize with our bundles. So don't necessarily just pick an individual winner. Go own a diversified portfolio. Think about this as an asset class. Think about this as an investment, and think about this over a 2 to 5 year sort of horizon. And the results speak for themselves on the Revix platform. And then just maybe something that I forgot to mention as well is the blue chip bundle that we've just launched. It's running with a fee-free promotion. So you can head over to the Revix website where you can download the mobile app, and you can invest absolutely any amount, literally from 150 Rand through to 1.5 million Rand plus, if you feel like balling. And yeah, you can go and get the blue chip bundle fee-free. That means absolutely zero fees when you buy into it.
Lovely. Thanks for the update, Sean. It's been a long time coming, and it's good to see you again and to hear from you. And you can check out anything else to do with what Revix is up to. You can effortlessly own a diversified portfolio of the world's top cryptocurrencies, which automatically stays up to date with the ever-changing market. Follow them on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Revix Invest. And for more info, head over to revix.com. It's the smart way to invest in crypto. Good to see you, dude. We'll check in with you soon.
Good to see you guys as well. Yeah, take care. All the best.
Sean.
Ciao, ciao.
Cheers, Sean.
There we go. people were asking, and there he is, Sean Sanders from Revix. So if you've got any questions, go and check them out at revix.com. They've got a team of people who will answer all your questions too. And there were people wondering why he wasn't talking to us anymore. Now he was busy. He was busy getting investment and upping the platform's performance and trying to get new products on there and all kinds of other things. So now you know. All right, let us find out from you what you want to talk about next. But we've got an amazing interview with Michael Jordaan, who's easily one of South Africa's foremost entrepreneurs, coming up next.
Gareth, I think your sound has fallen out. Was that us?
What? No, I think it's just you two.
Is it us? I think it's us.
Can you not hear me? No. Okay. All right. Well, we'll be back in just a moment with none other than Michael Jordaan, and we'll sort out all these issues that seem to be cropping up in the studio. Stick around.
All I do is win, no matter what. We can't be... There's a heavy reliance on nostalgia that is dangerous. And I do love old music. We all grew up around it. We all love those songs. But for me, we can't only be listening to things from 2008 when it's 2023. And there's a running joke with me and my friends, and we'll be like, we hear Khaleesi's Millionaire one more time. We love it. But at this point, please, stop it. Stop.
CliffCentral.com.
This week on the Auto Trader podcast.
Essentially, a grey import is a vehicle that shouldn't be in South Africa and is imported and in the country for another reason.
100%.
Besides being for consumers in South Africa to drive around our streets.
Yeah. So if I had to define it, essentially it's a good that's been imported to a country through unofficial or unauthorized distribution methods.
I mean, so if we call a spade, vehicles come into the country and they pass through our ports.
Yeah.
And my understanding is that's where the where it goes a little bit awry.
Catch us every Monday at 9 a.m. on YouTube and on autotrader.co.za.
All right, it is time to bring you one of the most interesting South Africans, and we try to find all the best people for you to talk to and to hear from on this show. One of those people is none other than Michael Jordaan, who took over as FNB CEO at the youngest age ever for the CEO of a major bank in South Africa. He also has all sorts of really useful business tips. He has interesting updates on what he's been up to in the last while, his new business interests. And I think for anyone who cares about doing business in South Africa, or even internationally, people who are interested in how it all works, the mind of an entrepreneur, this is especially for you. And I'm not saying that lightly, because this guy is a heavy hitter and people take him very seriously in South Africa for good reason. Take a listen. Here is Michael Jordaan. Well, Michael Jordaan is a well-known name in South African business and in the world of entrepreneurship. His accolades include having been the ex-CEO and probably the youngest bank CEO in history, but certainly of First National Bank and eBucks. He was also the founder and CEO of Montegray Capital, and he was voted Business Leader of the Year in 2013 by the chief executives of the top 100 companies on the Joburg Stock Exchange. I mean, I could say a whole lot more about him, but I'm sure, just like me, he doesn't like a long introduction. So let me bring on none other than Michael Jordaan. Michael, it's so nice to see you.
Thank you for having me, Gareth. I'm looking forward to this.
So first of all, I mean, you don't look like you've aged a single day. So obviously getting out of finance and well, getting out of banking and into a world where you're much more of an investor and you're a startup guy, you're an entrepreneur in the truest sense of the word. This is serving you well because you're looking happy and healthy.
Yeah, it's actually quite amazing what a toll it can take to run a big company, you know, because you have to have your undivided attention on it. You wear the responsibility of, in my case, more than 30,000 employees, tens of millions of customers. And if any single thing goes wrong, you know, the old saying about where the buck stops. And so you take it very, very personally, and it's quite tough. And then in the process, you quickly neglect things like friends and family, but even your body. So it's like one of the things, if I look back, or if I can give advice to any other people, is, you know, don't do that. You can burn out. It's not sustainable. So I'm enjoying new life a lot more. Yes.
Good. Well, good, because we need brains like yours working in a relaxed and full capacity manner, because then we can get more good ideas out of you. And really, I mean, South Africa needs a lot of good ideas at the moment. There are lots of reasons for us to be satisfied with the fact that we are Boer Maka Plan Nation and all of that stuff. But really, we've got some very big hills to climb. And I just want to get your overall picture, because you also seem to me to be one of those optimistic people who's always looking towards tomorrow and who sees the opportunity rather than the problems. So how are we feeling about things right at the moment? The world is a bit of a mess, you know, economically. Yeah. It's hard to figure out what's going on.
Yeah. Look, it's tough right now. I think the war, for example, is something nobody needed. You know, it just seems like a senseless thing in this modern day and age to still have a strife over, you know, where borders of countries are. The world is open and flat, and we should trade and invest. You don't have to have the wars. I mean, that's crazy. And then I suppose from an ideological perspective, particularly in America, you've got these two tribes that kind of aren't talking to each other. That's also a pity. You know, one finds solutions in the middle. You know, you need to be pragmatic about it. Gareth, you mentioned earlier about new ideas for South Africa. Look, I mean, I can't stop coming up with new ideas, but I don't think that's our core problem. I think our core problem is actually execution. You know, we know some of the things that need to be done. I mean, you don't need new ideas to fill a pothole. You've got to fill the pothole, right? You've got to fix it. We know that many things are broken, from our education system to our electricity supply, etc. What I do think is happening is that people are just getting on with it, often without government. People are saying, I'm sending my kids to private schools, and these aren't the like really expensive ones. There's some cheap alternatives around. People are not trusting state hospitals. They you know, kind of do their own medical aid or their own private hospitals. One by one, everything from security to water to electricity is actually being privatized, if you want to use that label to it. Yeah. I don't even think you need to call it that. I just think it's the market that is taking care of itself, and people that are solving problems. So I suppose if there's reason to be optimistic about all of this, is we're not sitting back, pointing fingers and waiting for government, although that's a very valid thing to do, is to criticize. I'm not saying people shouldn't criticize. Sure.
No, of course.
It's so much more energizing when you do something about it. And that's kind of what I'm doing with the rest of my life, surrounding myself with entrepreneurs who like to solve problems. They're irritated by problems, and they're solving them. And because they're solving them as business people, in a way, it's a sustainable solution, right? Because someone's paying for these things to happen. Correct.
Now, you know, you indicated 2 or 3 things here that are worth exploring a little bit. And I have the feeling that if you and I talk for, you know, at any length about any one thing, we're going to run into 300 different directions. So I'm going to try and keep as together as I can. I mean, I do have an agenda in my head of stuff I want to cover with you, but there's a difference between like people taking responsibility for themselves and not relying on the government, which is obviously a good thing. And the less we rely on government, as COVID and all these other things have taught us, the better, right? Because these are not superhumans. They're probably not even average humans. They're probably subpar in many respects, which is why they don't actually work in the free market. They have to parasitize on the state and get paid by all of us who are working in the form of taxes. But it's a good thing to be independent of government. It's a good thing to be responsible for as much of your life, have your own decision-making powers over as much of your life as possible. But for poor people in South Africa, that's not an option, right? I mean, it's not as if they can go out and buy solar for their house or, pay for a borehole to be put in or make sure that their kids go to a private school. It's just not an option for so many people in this country. It seems like the poor get punished again.
So Gareth, you're quite right. We could talk for a long time. Let me just debate with you that first point. Look, I think there are very many well-meaning people in government or in government circles. So, I want to kind of come up to them. I think it's tough.
Introduce me to one, just one.
No, you know what? Let me give you an example of whistleblowers. You know what trauma they have to go through. Their livelihood depends on it, and yet they go and do the right thing. And every now and then in the bureaucracy, you come across people that I kind of feel sorry for them because, we are all products of our environment and the structure that you put us in. So I just wanted to say that I think there are a lot of good people out there, and we mustn't always just look at, kind of the top leaders. We've got this fascination with all these top political leaders and so on. There are good people trying to make a difference in South Africa. But then your second point about, the choices poor people have, of course, they have less. They can't just go and install their own solar, for example. But there are still things that people can do. People have more agency than they realize. Can I give you a basic example? Is inflation is bad right now. Inflation on food is particularly bad, and it's a staple. You've got to do something about it. But the ability to have a small vegetable patch outside your house, that's in nearly everybody's purview. You can buy seeds very, very cheap. Most of the houses in South Africa have a little piece of land around them. It is not that difficult to grow a little bit of your own food. So you can do one, you can point fingers, you can march against food prices. But my first question would always be, have you got a little vegetable garden there? And so one by one, there are things that people can do. I'll give you another example. The cost of living is squeezing everybody, but I find people are quite hesitant to do things like change their bank to save bank fees, change their telco provider to get lower data costs, shop around for everything from insurance premiums to what you pay for your entertainment. There are better, cheaper services around. And I'm sometimes
could you be referring to Bank Zero and Rain by any chance?
I was trying to not slip it in, but it doesn't even have to be Bank Zero or Rain. There are better alternatives around, and I just think people need to, rich and poor people need to take agency for their own lives and make these decisions because their lives become better in the process. But they're also supporting the entrepreneurial solutions that are around.
Okay, so I'm going to just pick your brain on something that you probably are tired of talking about because you did leave the world of banking behind. And, we made it through that 2008 banking crisis in South Africa. You were at the helm of one of our major banks at that time. It was a massive problem all over the world, but we seem to have done pretty well by comparison. And people are talking about what's happening in the world now and how there's a looming global financial crisis if it isn't already happening, massive hyperinflation that's promised on the horizon. We've got Biden cashing more checks than America has to pay. And all of this has an ultimate cost. I mean, you can't just print money, right?
No, you definitely can't. And I think we're seeing the price now in terms of the inflation. Everybody underestimated it. Including the Fed, and now suddenly they belatedly have to raise interest rates. By the way, at the fastest pace that it's ever happened. Interest rates are rising very fast. So, it's time for stopping to kick the can. I think overall, if you had to say what's my concern for the world, it's over indebtedness. We have massive amounts of debt. the Japanification of the world. Where Japan has over 200% of their GDP is owned in debt. And it looks like the United States, like Europe, all the developed markets are heading that way as well. You can stomach that at low interest rates or when you print money, but right now you can't do that. So it is in fact very concerning. But you also start off by saying, like, South Africa went through the banking crisis. One of the things we can be proud of is the South African banking system. We may complain as consumers that the fees are high, but we run a modern, sophisticated, well-regulated, well-managed, tight banking system. No small depositor has ever lost money in South Africa, and it's unlikely they ever will. We're now also embarking on deposit insurance. And Gareth, there's another example of, government or quasi-government. The South African Reserve Bank is held in very high regard. The governor was, seen as one of the best governors in the world quite recently. The process of getting a banking license or managing a bank, very, very tightly controlled. So we do have these examples of excellence in our country. It's not an all fall down thing. We currently still the world rugby champions, for example. So there are these things where we do really, really well.
Well, also, I think one of the nice things about this country is it's a bit like, and I say this to people advisedly, it's a bit like the Wild West. I mean, we don't have unbelievable rules in culture like countries like Australia or Canada may have, where, the government really does have the ability to stop you from doing things or make you do things in your own home, which is kind of ridiculous. In South Africa, we don't really take much notice of the government until either you have to pay taxes or a cop stops you on the road, or it's kind of over there. It's not right here in your face, which I think is a benefit because, again, it makes people more self-reliant. And there's nothing that South Africans do better than being resilient. I mean, I think that's a fair compliment to us as well. Do you agree?
I completely agree. And apart from the freedom that we have to do these type of things, I do believe in the basic good nature of South Africans. We have a sense of humor. We can laugh at ourselves. We get on with things. I think the politicians often try and drive us apart. But, when you meet people in the streets or around a braai or anywhere, we're essentially friendly people who get on with life. And I just wish we could have kind of more of that in the popular discourse.
So, okay, there are a few things that I have to ask you because they seem to me like obvious things that people want to know about the way that your day-to-day stuff goes. I mean, you've really done an extraordinary job of bringing about new businesses since you left the corporate world. And you take a very keen interest in how these are run. You're not a hands-off kind of guy. You're interested in who the leadership are. You're interested in what they do. You make yourself a part of the process. And is that because you are as invested and interested in the projects as I anticipate you are? Or is it also because you're not the kind of guy who can sit around doing nothing? A lot of people have this fantasy, especially people who haven't made any money. They have this fantasy of, when I make lots of money, I'll just sit around the pool all day and I'll read books and I'll watch YouTube videos. And that's my life. I'm just going to enjoy in inverted commas your life. There's no fun in that for people like you, right? You have to be busy. Otherwise you'll go crazy.
100%. So a couple of points. First one is I am a nerd. Like a self-confessed nerd, geek, whatever. I do love finding out more and more about more and more things. It gives real intellectual pleasure to finding out just stuff. And secondly, I think what I've noticed, I've got a bit of an obsession in trying to solve problems. Just like people like riddles or Sudoku, whatever it is. So when I see problems I care about, it's great to be able to solve them. And it's great to be solving them, as I said, sustainably. And that usually comes with business solutions, not by taxing people. But the third thing, Gareth, is just that the secret to life is people. And you're going to be supremely successful if you surround yourself with the right people. And you're never going to be successful if the people around you draw from your energy and take you down. So while I do get involved, my involvement really is just to find the right people and then to actually empower and support them. My particular style is not one of thou shalt or trying to interfere or getting involved in the detail. If I'm asked to, of course, but it really is to kind of find people, if I can, back them with capital, and then back them with advice. But ultimately, then it's up to them. And the big test, by the way, for all of these entrepreneurs is what we spoke about earlier, is execution. There are lots and lots and lots of people with ideas. When I started out my venture capital journey, like nearly everybody wants to come and have coffee with you and come and pitch an idea, basically kind of expecting you to make it happen. And it doesn't work like that. You know, we have a deficit of execution capability. And if you find the right energizing, energetic entrepreneurs who have a dream, a passion, a problem they want to solve, and the ability to execute, I think that's how the world moves forward.
How do you identify the people who execute? Are they already in the process of executing things? Because this is a difficult thing. And like you say people, and you're absolutely right. I don't doubt that for a second. But it's also really, it's a skill to be able to identify those people. How do you do it?
Yeah, so I think it's actually quite easy. You look at the track record. You know, what have people achieved by themselves before in their lives, in business or in any other type of life? You know, and again, I want to say I'm a nerd, and with that comes I'm a dreamer. You know, I love the fact that you can dream about possible solutions, but you also then want to say, like, what have people done to make it a reality? And so it's quite a simple test. I mean, you know, people can actually show you what they've done in the past. And, you know, to be an entrepreneur is super, super hard. I think Elon Musk said it's like staring into the abyss while you're chewing broken glass or something like that, you know.
It doesn't sound very nice.
Obstacles you need to overcome. I mean, you've done it, Gareth, right? You've started your own streaming business, right? And sure. It seems romantic at first, but it's really, really hard. And, you know, people ridicule you and so on. So you look at those people with resiliency to be able to get things done. And if I may add, on low budgets. This is the other thing. Yeah. You know, right entrepreneurs inherently, intuitively understand frugality. You know, that capital is a scarce type of resource. And the wonderful thing is, once you've learned that over a couple of years, that's going to stay with you forever. You know, looking after the pennies. And that's maybe, if I had to be critical of, let's say, government solutions versus private sector solutions, I just think they are so much more efficient because, you know, people put their own money into the game. They've got their own skin in the game.
That's such a good point. So often people think that if you just throw money at a problem, it'll solve it. And sometimes you just create a bottomless pit, you know, and you're just feeding this monster that keeps on consuming and consuming money. And then you get these people who write books like, you know, you have to spend money to make money. And they talk in these very general terms. Those are not the kind of people who we should be listening to in this country. There isn't extra money running around. You know, there's obviously investment capital, and good ideas will always find investors. I would like to hope that that's the case, but it's really about how you manage the money that you have rather than just being given blank checks every day.
So when you look at what causes innovation, it nearly always is constraints. There's a constraint, and now you need to overcome it by thinking better, by understanding the problem better. You know, understanding the very last % of your field is often where the breakthrough innovations come from. So in that sense, the constraint around capital isn't always a bad one, because you think of new ways and different ways of doing things. Now, in a tech startup world where I work, it's actually quite amazing that the barrier to entry has become far, far less. You don't need to own your own hardware because you can put it in the cloud. You don't need to pay a huge amount of money to have your own email and your website and so on. There are lots and lots of free solutions out there. If you shop around, your connectivity, all those type of things, you don't need to have a marketing, full-time marketing person. You can do a logo design through AI now. You know, you just go to ChatGPT or DALL-E or Midjourney, any of those, and you have 6 logos designed for you for free right now. So if you go the old way and you have a lot of money, you'll pay an agency, I don't know, millions to design something, or you can just do it yourself at your own type of fingertips. So you just need to be aware of the constraints, capital, time, etc. Small companies, frugal budgets can actually achieve amazing things. That's the future.
All right. So I'm listening to you very carefully. You said earlier that solving problems is kind of in your nature. And in this country, we've got a lot of problems to solve, hence many opportunities for people to make money if they're clever about it. So, I mean, Rain is filling an interesting gap in the internet service provision market. How's that business doing? Then you can explain what Bank Zero is doing that no one else was doing. And then some of the other ones that people aren't talking about yet that you're quite excited about, because these things are the things that people most want to know. And I'm sure you're sick of having to tell these stories over and over again, even though you love them.
Gareth, I won't get sick about it. I really am passionate about these ones.
Okay,
good. So let's talk Rain. Interesting name, a non-telco name, but it's a telco that is started with 4G, but is now leading in 5G. And the whole idea is to get homes and in future also businesses connected to the internet using data as an abundant currency. So it's not data per gig, it's just as much as you want to use. Because that, by the way, is also the mindset of the future. You don't have a limit on how much Netflix you can have, or Spotify, or Apple Music, or Twitter. Once you subscribe, you can use as much as you want. It's going well. The 5G rollout now probably covers more households than the top 3 fiber providers together. The business model, and again, this comes from constraints. We didn't open a shop in every mall in the country. That's very expensive. We don't sell through intermediaries. That would make the product more expensive. So it's all online, and it's going really well. And very soon, we'll also launch a mobile service. But I just can't give you details about that. Partly, what's nice about this business is that if you are not connected to the internet, you are not part of the modern world. The divide that is happening in the world right now is people who are part of the internet or not part of the internet. And, it's tough enough to have a business even when you're connected to the internet. But if you're not, you're just part of a kind of lost generation or segment of society. So bringing that kind of digital connectivity is a wonderful purpose for Rain to have. And it's going quite well. And you'll hear more about the launch soon. And if I can move on to Bank Zero,
sure.
I think small team. I mean, when I tell people it's about 30 people working there, they shake their heads. All the technology is done in-house, so nothing's outsourced. That has the advantage that you can use the latest, most modern technology, that you have full control of your tech stack, that it's lower cost. But maybe most importantly, once you own all your own technology, you can innovate more and more. It's far more easy to innovate than if somebody else does your technology for you or you share it with all the other banks. And that's how we can do banking for free. I think cryptos have set the example there, that you can make instant payments across the world for free. So you should be able to do it with a modern banking system in South Africa as well. So it's going well. Much smaller numbers than the other challenger banks like Discovery and Time, but purposefully so. We don't have a big marketing campaign or marketing budget. We're growing incrementally. Nice growth every single month, learning from our customers and then improving the product as we go along. So we still have high long-term hopes, but we're very happy with the pace of customer acquisition, and it's particularly in the business segment. We think businesses in South Africa are neglected by the banks and pay too many bank fees.
All right, and the new things, because you've got you talk about
AI.
tech businesses. Yeah, AI. Okay, I knew this is going to come up, so I was keeping my powder dry on this, because everyone who is paying attention right now, and it's not boring by any means, but everyone who's paying attention is talking about AI and just how frightening this is. I saw a thing yesterday that they've tested some artificial intelligence. I'm not sure which program it is or which platform. The machine was asked to solve for a captcha, those captcha codes that you put up on screen, and it got hold of TaskRabbit online, hired a human, and told the human, I'm blind, I'm not a robot, I'm blind, I can't read this, can you solve this captcha code for me? Then got those codes and did whatever it wanted to do, hopefully nothing too nefarious. But this is amazing. Absolutely, I mean, isn't that scary beyond belief? That just gave me the chills.
And there are quite a few other such examples where they come across as sentient, as if they have real feelings. Look, the thing about AI, it's been around 60 years. People forget about it. And in that 6 decades, there was announcement upon announcement of what it would do, and it never really happened. There were many, many false dawns. Also, I want to say what a lot of people call AI isn't really even AI. It's something called machine learning, or it's even a subset of machine learning. It's really just that computers are getting smarter and smarter at manipulating data, which is what the world is made of. But I think what's happened with ChatGPT and with these applications like the story you've just told now, suddenly it's broken through, and the advances from now are going to be very, very fast, and it's going to change everything about everything. It's going to change journalism. It's going to change how we do medicine, how we do law, how we do education, everything. And my broad message to anyone who cares to listen is you got to lean into this trend. There's no ways fighting this thing. Learn how to use it. If you're a scholar, and you need to write an essay, first look at what ChatGPT is going to do. Then take that thing and improve on it. Learn how to prompt it better, but because the output can be quite amazing. If you're a doctor, there's a chance that AI can diagnose your patients better than you. I know you don't like hearing it, but have a look at what AI can do for you. If you're a lawyer, ChatGPT can draw up better contracts than you if you prompt it properly. And all of this is going to make us so much more productive. Your job won't be taken away by AI, but your job is under threat by somebody else who's using AI in their job. So my big message is just like all the other technologies, you didn't have to fight word processing or Excel or whatever, adopt it as part of how you do life. And you've got to do the same with AI. This one is one of the more profound technologies that's going to hit our society.
Yeah, it's like these people who think that it's cool to still work on a typewriter. I mean, it's all very, maybe for artistic purposes, it's interesting, but otherwise it's completely inefficient. And everybody said at quite rightly, every stage of development, they've always said, oh, this is the end. We're definitely going to be killed by the machines now. I don't think that's likely to happen.
Well, technology's never done that. 150 years ago, most of humanity was working in agriculture, in fields. And then, mechanized plows and tractors came along, and they could have then said, no, this is terrible. This is going to destroy the 95% of people's jobs who work in agriculture. But it was difficult at that stage to contemplate new jobs that would come about. I don't know, desktop publishing or hairdressing or, I don't know, computer cryptographer and so on. So what technology always does, always has been doing and will continue doing is it will destroy jobs, but it will enable a whole host of new jobs. Why we fear it is because we can have a tangible grasp of the jobs that are being destroyed, but we don't have a really good sense of the new jobs that will be created. But it's always done that. And in fact, net, it's most probably created more new jobs than it has destroyed in the process. As we get more productive, we get more wealthy, there's more money to be spent, society becomes more wealthy, and in the process, living standards rise.
So, Michael, I've got to take issue with you about something, because I often say to people who ask bewilderingly, they ask me, like, what do you think of this business idea or whatever? I say to them, a lot of this is patience. A lot of it also comes with a certain amount of age, experience, and maturity, and nobody wants to hear that. They want like instant gratification. They want to know that their idea is going to make them a millionaire and they're going to be fine and they can retire by the age of 40 or whatever. I mean, like these are ideas people carry around in their heads. But you went and became the CEO of a major bank at 36, which was pretty much unheard of at the time. I don't know how things have changed since then or how they were before then, but that was a pretty gutsy move by the people who appointed you then, and obviously it paid off for them. I mean, I'll tell you without any shred of regret that I only joined FNB because I could see the kinds of things that you guys were doing there then, and it'll be very hard for people to get rid of me, but I could see how things changed again, and they're all very competent, good people. When you left, there was kind of an innovation gap of a kind, and I think they felt it as well. But at 36, what do you think it was that, first of all, got their attention? And second of all, why do you think it was a good thing or a bad thing in retrospect?
Look, I'm very grateful they chose me. I joke about it, saying, to do something like that, you've got to have testicular fortitude, because you're taking a chance, right? And typically in banking, you want to go for the very like the trusted hands that have proven themselves
Yes.
that aren't going to take any risks. At the time, FNB was clearly the laggard. It was definitely the fourth of the four big banks, and there was a sense that we needed to do something to get to number one, and that technology and innovation was going to be a big part of that. And that's something I've been kind of strongly supportive of. But once again, it was about people. I really kind of appreciate any compliments that are thrown my way of my tenure there, but it was an amazing team, and we had the ability to agree on challenges that we set ourselves, things we wanted to achieve, and then the teams were empowered to get on with it, the individuals, etc. And it's quite an amazing thing in a big corporate if you can bring about a cultural revolution, and that cultural revolution is about empowerment, about innovation, about backing people, about taking risks and making mistakes. And when I say take risks, I'm not talking the type of risks that brought Silicon Valley Bank down. I'm saying new ways of doing things, starting app-based banking or giving tablets at low-cost prices to your customers, or anyway, just allowing people to come up with good ideas and improve things. The difficulty is once you have that mindset that nearly everything can be improved, you look around South Africa, and I mean, the frustration is the opportunity cost of everything that could be working. We shouldn't be worrying about electricity now. Electricity is like one of those basic things. We should really be worried about the kind of the fourth industrial revolution and how we train people, how we train our entire education system so that we have kids that are problem solvers, complex problem solvers, not people who can memorize stuff. Sorry, I'm carrying on a little bit here.
No. This is gold. This is gold.
It's about having a proven track record of execution and then finding new ways of solving problems. I think that's what my mindset was when I was 36. I was obviously kind of wet behind the ears. In many ways, I think I'm probably would be an appropriate person for the role now, now that I'm like a little bit older. But when you're young and you have lots of energy and you really want to prove yourself, that also has certain advantages. Anyway, we're trying it all again in Bank Zero now because we think that is where the puck is going. And you've heard this cliche a couple of times, but that famous ice hockey player, Wayne Gretzky, that was asked why he was so good. I don't know if you knew how profound his answer would be, but he said, it's because I skate not where the puck, the ball is, but where it's going. That's the secret in business. Once again, Gareth, you've done that with your streaming service. It's clearly where the new technology is going. Sometimes one does it too early, but it's still the right thing to do because you can get caught up in the old world. And banking, it would be the high cost structure, the branches, the head offices, the systems. But you can see this in nearly every industry, that is changing. And the one thing I can say to everybody for free is AI is one of those things where the puck is going. It is going to affect everything. So the quicker you get onto that train, the better.
Yeah, there's nothing worse than like being proud of being a Luddite, being proud to kind of be stuck to old things. And of course, there are old things that are valuable. Not everything must change. We mustn't tear it all out by the roots. And this brings me to something which, you probably don't want to get too much into the politics of the day, but there's a lot of craziness going on in the world right at the moment. You've got a lot of very strange ideas, either ones that have already been proven to have been stupid for generations before, or people who think they've come up with things for the first time when they're actually just another incarnation of something that's happened before. What are the ideas you think that will take us forward as opposed to those that are going to make us repeat our mistakes? I mean, this is why I'm a student of history. This is why I love learning about, the different wars that humans have fought against each other, resources and, ideologies, because that stuff actually does matter. And if you don't know anything about it, you're just going to keep on repeating the mistake.
Gee, okay, so Gareth, it's a very interesting topic, this one. A couple of points. One is I deliberately remove myself from politics or political parties or political leaders. I just think worldwide, not just in South Africa, it becomes a very emotive topic and people kind of get irritated about it. But that doesn't mean I remove myself from the issues, which it's perfectly valid to have a view on, I don't know, what should happen to Eskom or the post office or, I don't know, gun control in the United States or taxes or whatever. So think about the issues first of all. Second thing is, I do think the world is caught a lot in a lot of ideologies and in isms. And what I, as a business person, would plead for is to base as many possible decisions on facts, because you're going to get better decisions that way. So, for example, if you want South Africa to grow, I think it's the wrong debate to have a debate between, let's say, privatization versus state ownership. The real debate is to say, let's look at countries that have been growing at high rates for a long time, and what have they been doing, and what can we just copy from them? So it's a pure kind of factual thing.
It's not a guessing game. There are active examples in the world you can refer to now.
100% growth is a choice. Growth is not some magical thing that happens to you. Growth is something you choose to do, and then you take the decisions, which sometimes are hard decisions, but you take those decisions and then you will grow. Same thing with our education system, which are the systems that are producing the best education results? What are they doing? What can we do? So I would really say that the way to solve the issues of the day is to be based on decisions on facts. And then I want to throw in a third thing, and that is piloting and doing things small scale before you do them big scale. I really think it's a problem that we have, that you say, now I want to solve the entire electricity grid or the entire education system. Or if you think you've got a great solution, why don't we pilot, let's say it's an education solution, why don't you pilot it in one school or in one grade in one school? Right. Check it out, see if it works, and maybe you can even improve on it there. And then once you've got that version, do more. I say this because this is the language of startups. I mean, startups that are now huge, whether it's Amazon or Facebook or anyone, 10 years or 20 years ago, they were nothing. They were an idea that started incredibly small. And in that process of starting small, you refine it and you make it better. So my third point here would be just, instead of getting so worked up with each other in these big political debates, let's just try something and see if it works. And if it works, we can roll it out to more places that you want to make things better. It's not that complex, actually.
It's eating the elephant one bite at a time.
Here we go. Here we go.
What would be the worst job in the world for you right now? And what is the thing that makes you most happy about your current business interests? Like, what is the thing that you would loathe to do? Either something that you did do once or something that you've never done, but that would be the worst kind of place for Michael Jordaan. Like if you sat in an office doing a 9-to-5, doing balance sheets, or like what's your hell business-wise?
No, I look at the people I feel sorriest for, and I think have the toughest job in our country, are miners. I mean, just think going down the earth into the darkness.
Oh my God!
Having all that earth in front of you, real physical labor. I mean, in a sense, they're heroes, but that must be super, super tough. In a broader sense, for me, it's anything where you don't have freedom or empowerment. I mean, if I can just share a little story out of my youth, I was in a hostel in high school where you were supervised to study 3 hours a day. And it was the worst thing for me possible, is somebody peering over my shoulder to see if I'm doing my work. I'm the type of person where focus on the output. If it's in school, let's say it's exam results, that's fine. Hold me accountable if I have bad exam results, but don't hold me accountable for the process of how I get there, when I get there, how many hours, etc. Now, it's the same in work. The type of people I want to work with are also similar people. It's not people that you want to clock watch, that they're in there and how many hours they spend. You purely want to look at output. So my dream job is to have that freedom, but freedom that comes with responsibility and output and measurement at the end, because, the game does matter. The score of the game does matter, but it's just not that kind of complete control of how you do it. You want freedom there.
So speaking of freedom, because I completely agree with you, it's like I'd rather have 90% freedom and 50% money than 90% money and 50% freedom. But what kinds of things do you do to bring balance into your life? Because you could quite easily be a workaholic. You could quite easily be one of those people who doesn't have a work-life balance. And maybe you're lucky enough to have discovered that early, maybe later. But I think the key is that for a lot of people who are trying, because you get told you got to work. And actually, that's not great advice all the time.
Yeah, if couple of points. The one is, I grew up pretty conventionally, Afrikaans, where things like loyalty and hard work and kind of, studying something to fall back on, that old advice I gave you. I did all of those things. I wish somebody at that stage had told me the following, very simply, to take more risks. Because the quality of your life is correlated directly with the amount of risks that you're willing to take. Now, again, I'm not saying stupid risk, there's smart risks, but instead of, going to work for that big company and the big brand, you're going to learn so much more out of starting a small business, even if it fails when you're young. So you've definitely got to take more risks in life. And then you asked me, Gareth, about how am I doing it now? I'm privileged that after having worked very long, very hard for a big corporate and set aside a little bit of capital that I was then able to invest, I'm now able to not get involved in operational matters anymore. So, the customer that phones me, kind of late at night or anything, I'm involved with great people on a strategic level where I can support them, which is immensely intellectually stimulating, which is also why I like reading or podcasts or whatever, finding more about the world, because it helps me give great advice. And then all the things I neglected, friends, family, body, kind of doing more exercise, like quite a few things I'm getting into that I wish I'd known before. I do want to mention one, which is having a cold swim or bath in the mornings.
This is it.
It really is one of the most amazing things.
You do it every day?
I try to at least 3, 4, 5 times a week.
Okay.
I joke that kind of Eskom is helping South Africans do that as well, because generating heat in water is one of the big
very expensive
components of power consumption in a house. But that aside, I think that's very healthy. Eating more healthy, trying to drink a little bit less red wine. Because we can actually expand our lifespan and our health span quite a lot by focusing on some of those type of basics.
Well, you remain an example of exactly the kind of entrepreneurship this country needs. And while people will sit and complain that this and that aren't perfect, there are people trying to solve problems. You are at the forefront of that. It's always lovely to spend time with you, and I really appreciate you making some time for us. Good luck with all your endeavors. I'm sure you don't need it, but it's always good to know that there are people like you that are making things better incrementally or exponentially, depending on which project we're talking about. So thank you, Michael. Great to see you.
Thank you, Gareth. And we need all the luck. All of us need all the luck we can get.
Yeah, that's probably right.
Thank
you so much, sir.
Nice
Very good to see you. Thank you.
Right. And you. Keep up. Bye-bye.